Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another themed reading vlog. I'm going to be starting a new themed reading vlog series on my channel having to do with retellings. The more and more I read, the more I realize how much I love retellings, both fantasy retellings or books that take a more contemporary spin on retellings. The first installment in this series is a Peter Pan retelling reading vlog. Ever since I read Lost Boy by Christina Henry, I'll pop that up here, I have been so intrigued by Peter Pan retellings. I'm not really sure why, because Peter Pan is not like my absolute favorite fairy tale or Disney movie even, but I gave Lost Boy 5 stars. It was one of the first, it's almost horror maybe. I give it 5 stars. I don't know how to exactly describe it. It's a Peter Pan retelling with a big horror twist to it, and I loved it a lot. So since then, my Peter Pan retelling TBR has been growing, and I want to read them in this vlog. Now, the books I have currently slotted for this vlog are Hooked by Emily McIntyre, which is the first book I'm reading. This is the first book in the Never After series, and this is a dark romance fairy tale retelling series where the villain gets the girl. Dark romance. Already I underestimated that, but I'll give you a quick update on this in a moment. I also own Darling Girl by Liz Mikulski. I'm not sure. It says Darling Girl brings all the magic of a classic Peter Pan story to the present, while also exploring the dark underpinnings of fairy tales, grief, aging, sacrifice, motherhood, and just how far we'll go to protect those we love. I'm also planning on reading the Never King series, which is on Kindle Unlimited. Also, these books are on Kindle Unlimited, but I own the physical copy. This is another dark romance. I believe this one is Why Choose. But before getting too far into this, if you have a fairy tale retelling you would like me to do a reading vlog for next, please do let me know. So I have already started Hooked by Emily McIntyre. As you can see, I am on page 93, and this is just over 300 pages. Like I mentioned, I already underestimated how dark this is going to be. I also didn't realize until I saw a YouTube thumbnail recently that this is the captor-captive trope. I haven't gotten there yet, but I saw it on a thumbnail that was like captor-captive romance recommendations. So I'm a little concerned about that. So we have Hook, and he is not a great guy, and he has a bone to pick with Wendy's dad, who is Peter, of course. And so the fairy tale references in here are very on the nose. Like, we have Smee, we have Hook, we have Wendy, John, Peter, we have the tick tick tick, the crocodile is involved in this, all of the things. But I actually love that so much, because so often with retellings, which we might encounter this later in the vlog, is it says it's a retelling, but then we stray so far from the retelling, which is valid, fine, that by the end, it doesn't feel like a retelling anymore. Maybe it just was at the very beginning. And so far, because of all the character names and other things, I don't want to like spoil anything. You're getting a lot of Peter Pan references in here, which, like I said, I'm actually loving. We've had some gory scenes so far involving Hook and his hooked knife. He's a scary dude, but also I think I'm like already obsessed with him. I don't know. So far, I'm really enjoying this. I'm doing this as a buddy read with my friend Sam, and so we're reading 5 chapters per day. So this isn't something I'm going to binge read through. Hey Hey guys, just checking in on Hooked by Emily McIntyre. I'm now over halfway and I needed to stop myself to film this check-in because I was about to read today's 5 chapters, but I forgot to check in yesterday. I'm surprisingly loving this. I love how dark and twisty it is. I love the thrillery, horror-y aspects. I really like James / Hooked. He is definitely like a tortured hero. He is definitely the villain. So this is like the villain gets the girl, right? And sometimes I feel like in these dark romances, they're the villain, but they're just misunderstood and they're actually like so nice and respectful. Like he just seems like a true villain to me, and there's no reasoning with him at this point. I did see some pretty bad reviews that said the first half they were hooked, they had it hooked. They were loving it, and then the ending was really cheesy and they didn't like it. So I'm a little worried that he is going to be enamored by our heroine, Wendy, a little too quickly, and that things just work out too easily. Where we're at right now, I don't see that at all. He's doing some pretty bad stuff, you know? And one of the discoveries he made with his, I don't want to spoil anything, was so gruesome. I couldn't turn the pages fast enough. I was shocked. I mean, not shocked that it happened plot-wise, but like shocked by what I was reading, if that makes sense. I'm really enjoying this. I'm so happy I decided to do this video, and I'm so happy Sam and I are buddy reading this. I'm off to read my 5 chapters for the day right now. Hello everyone, I have, oh that's upside down, finished Hooked by Emily McIntyre, the first book in this Never After series, but also for this Peter Pan reading vlog. I've also decided I am going to read the source material, the original Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, in this vlog as well. I don't know if that will be what I'm reading next or at some point in this reading vlog. But to let you know about this, I gave it like a 3-star. I really enjoyed my time reading it. I read through it really quickly, and I don't usually say this about romance books, but this could have been longer, and I think I would have enjoyed it more because I feel that the conflicts and like the plot twists and what arises from that, it's just resolved too easily. There's no real convincing or true conflict. Like you see a conflict coming, it happens, and then everything's okay. And I feel like we could have had a little more conflict and angst. I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel like Wendy is just too okay with everything happening, and some really awful things happen in this book. Some crazy revelations come up in this book, and oh wow, that's shocking. Okay. I just feel like everybody in here just got over everything too easily. So I did enjoy it. 3.5, I don't know. It's not a favorite, but I really did like how dark and gruesome and like thrillery this got. I just feel like the romance was a bit too easy, but I do plan on continuing on with the Never After series. However, that won't be in this vlog because the other ones are not Peter Pan retellings. Hi friends, sorry for the jump scare. The next book I'm reading for this vlog is Never by Jessa Hastings. One of my very most anticipated releases. I had this pre-ordered. It's been months since it's been released, and I'm now just getting to it. Also happens to be my second lowest rated book on my entire physical TBR. Love that for me. I have been terrified to pick up this book after some really awful reviews came out. we'll see how it goes. I have started this. In this, we are following Daphne Darling as she goes to Neverland. So Daphne's mother and grandmother and all of the women on like her maternal side go to Neverland. However, they usually go when they're 12 or 13, and Peter hadn't come for her until she was on the cusp of turning 18. And I feel like that is a significant portion. This, much like Magnolia Parks, is more of like a character study, and I am loving it so far. It's like Magnolia Parks with Jessa's wonderful writing style. I really jive with her writing style. I know a lot of people don't, and that's fine. I really like it, but it has the fantastical elements of being in Neverland. And I think that that is a fun aspect here, and we're really diving deep into Peter Pan so far, and with a more like adult lens. I say quotation marks because she's like 17 turning 18 versus how Peter Pan is perceived when you're 12 or 13. He is still that flighty, selfish person, but it's harder to swallow or like really be enamored by him when he acts like that and you are almost 18. You know what I mean? So far, absolutely loving this. However, I made the fatal mistake of looking at reviews because I saw so many 1 stars and DNFs. A lot of them said Jessa's insufferable writing style, which I actually really like her writing style, so that's fine with me. But there was also a lot of commentary on the last bit of the book, so I don't know. Sam and I are buddy reading this, as we seem to buddy read so many books. I love it so much. We have a constant buddy read going. Like as soon as we finish a book, we start another one. I still have high hopes, but I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll go with that. I think this video is turning out to be fun, and seeing the like different takes on the same fairy tale, you know? I have finished Never by Jessa Hastings. I gave this 4 stars. Jessa Hastings has one of the most beautiful writing styles I have ever encountered. I was fully immersed in this story. We're following incredibly flawed characters while they continue to make really poor choices. It's quite similar in that manner to her other series, Magnolia Parks, if you have read that, but this is in a fantasy setting, following characters that we may or may not be familiar with, or seeing them in a new light, as this is a Peter Pan retelling. So we have Peter Pan, Hook, the Lost Boys, you know, all of those characters, and this feels more like a character study, and I really enjoyed it. It's not a perfect book. It's not 5 stars, obviously. I rated it 4 stars, but this exploration into Peter Pan as he's older, he's like 18, 19, in that age range, is really interesting to me, because much of his personality from when he is a boy that we are more familiar with, like in the movies and such, a lot of that remains as a part of who he is. But we see it a little bit differently when we know that he's older. So like, he's still kind of selfish. He's still very flighty and just does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And when you're a 12-year-old boy who seemingly has no responsibilities, no parents, no rules, nothing, it's like a really fun time, as we see in the movies. But when you are on the cusp of becoming a man, those same attributes of who he is no longer as fun-loving. You know what I mean? So I really did enjoy this. I enjoyed my time buddy reading this with Sam, and we both love the Peter Pan retelling. So we're also going to buddy read and are starting today The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. This is a trilogy, I believe. They're less than 200-page novellas. This is going to be a dark Peter Pan retelling, a dark romance. Why choose? I don't know how fantastical this is in terms of like, is there magic? Obviously Neverland is fantastical, but like we read Hooked by Emily McIntyre, which is also a Peter Pan retelling, but has more of a mafia, like contemporary real world twist to it. But I don't know how fantastical this is going to be. How much more can I say? But I'm really looking forward to it. One of my in real life best friends, Jess, absolutely loves this series, so I have very high hopes. And I'm sensing a return of my Kindle era. I've been neglecting her all year in favor of reading a whole bunch of library books and physical books off my TBR. The kids are fighting today. I'm on my last nerve. But I just finished a book on my Kindle earlier today, and now I'm about to start this one, and I just love her. You know what I mean? Hey guys, checking in. I am now 25% of the way through The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. It's just the next morning from when I told you I was going to be starting this, because this book is so short. The writing is really simple, which I don't mean that in like as a criticism. Like, it's just so easy to read through quickly. I'm confused but excited. There's some mysterious dark magic at play, which confirms that this is going to be more like a dark fantasy romance than like a contemporary or historical, you know what I mean? There's definitely some sinister magic situation going on in Neverland, which I'm so excited for. This is very different in tone than the other books we've read for this reading vlog, which my concern with these style of videos is that I would read a bunch of books that felt very similar. Like, obviously they're all based around Peter Pan, but the vibes have been different. The authors are definitely like putting their own spin on it, which I just love. All I know is that Pan always comes and gets the Darling girls on their 18th birthday. We are following Winnie, who is the daughter of Mary, and Mary is a very broken woman. She was deeply traumatized by her time with Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, and will not discuss what occurred even with her own daughter. And they have moved around all over the place. They have locks on the doors. No one knows where they live. They don't even hardly use the lights to try and stay hidden. Peter Pan comes for Winnie on her 18th birthday, as he always does, and I'm concerned. Vane is terrifying. He definitely has some like dark magic something. There's something wrong with Peter Pan and with Neverland in turn, because they are so closely tied together. We are also following Kaz and Bash, who are twins and Lost Boys, and we are getting multiple perspectives. We're getting some perspectives from Peter Pan, from Winnie, and some of the Lost Boys. So I'm really excited for this. It's going to be a really fast read, as I said. I don't want to give too much away because it is so short, less than 200 pages, but I did want to check in with my initial thoughts, and I have no idea what's happening, but I'm excited to find out. Sam and I just finished The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. This is under 200 pages, and I know I checked in very briefly, and what I said in my check-in is all I'm really going to say about the contents of this book, because it is so short. I'm scared of spoiling anything for you, but I can say I gave this 4.5 stars. I had the best time reading this. It didn't quite give 5-star feels, but we loved it so much we are immediately picking up the second book in this series. So this reading vlog is going to go on hold for a little bit. I'm not going to include the whole series as a part of this reading vlog because I do have 2 more books I want to read for this, which would put us at 5, and already that feels like a lot, and sequels are even more challenging. But yes, dark fantasy romance. Why choose? We have Peter Pan and the Vicious Lost Boys, and they are vicious indeed. This is dark. If you are not into dark romance, if you're someone who likes romance and you're someone who likes thrillers, give dark romance a try if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun, but you need to like suspend some disbelief, you know what I mean? How these men treat women is not acceptable in the real world, but I had the best time and can't wait to pick up the second one. So this is a definite recommendation from me from this video. Hey guys, sorry for the jump scare. I just got the kids off to school. It's very early in the morning, but I was about to sit down to continue reading and I realized I haven't even told you guys that I have picked up Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This is the original children's classic, and I definitely wanted to read the original for within this video series. So this is just over 200 pages and I'm on page 50, so I thought it was a good opportunity to check in before I got too far. As is typical with classics, whether they're children's classics or more adult, I guess, the language is a bit harder to understand for me personally, and I'm also like, I feel like the storytelling is intentionally confusing. Like, the writing is not linear, without any indications of the time that we're talking about. Like, when we're first starting, it seems as if Wendy is the narrator and she's talking about her childhood, and then we flash back into her childhood again. It's not separate chapters, it's just like within the chapter, and then like she's an infant to an older child, and it's just like so back and forth. We are with Mr. and Mrs. Darling after the children go missing with Peter Pan, and then all of a sudden we are in the bedroom with the children. They're still at home. So I think I can understand a bit more of what's going on because I have the base knowledge of like what the Disney movie was like, but in terms of like how this book is written, it's a bit confusing. Also, there are things in here that are different than the movie, which has been interesting. Hi. Mr. Darling is a deplorable human. Like, he's so awful. The Darlings themselves are very keeping up with the Joneses a bit more. Like, they're very selfish parents. They're more concerned with what the neighbors think than their own children. There were a couple like, oh, the children is a week or 2 old and we're just sitting down with the budget to see if we can afford to keep them. I was like, didn't you have 9 months to figure out if you could afford to keep your child? Like, but we need to work into the budget the housekeeper, because all of our neighbors have a housekeeper and I can't do that. And we need a nanny because we have events and parties to go to, and someone needs to bathe the children and put them to bed, and it's just so strange. And then with each child it was like, can we afford to keep this child? We need to keep the housekeeper and the nanny. It's just like and this is a buddy read with Sam, of course it is. We buddy read everything together, it seems, and we were talking about how nice it is. This was written in 1911, sorry, by a man. J.M. Barrie is a man, and the focus on Peter Pan is more focused on women. So Miss Darling is a much better human, whereas Mr. Darling is portrayed in a more negative light, which in a classic written by a man, I was pleasantly surprised about. Now, of course, Peter Pan the movie also is focused on, like, they want Wendy not for a girlfriend. Really, they just want a mother. They want someone to take care of, someone who is nurturing. And so Miss Darling as well in our real world is again portrayed in a more positive light than the father figure, which I just really enjoy. Also, not that I picked up in the Disney adaptation was the real world is also a bit more magical than I first thought. Like, obviously, this has fantastical elements. There's fairies, there's flying, there's Neverland, but it's said that, like, Miss Darling at night sneaks into the children's room and, like, reorganizes their thoughts for them, and she's able to, like, see and analyze all these new thoughts and knowledge that they've picked up through the day and keep their minds organized. And then, of course, their nanny is the dog. Anyways, this is a really long update, but I am really enjoying this. I will finish this quickly. Like I said, it's just over 200 pages, like 220, my edition. And I'm really excited to see where it goes from here and, like, how many more differences I can pick up on. Hello. I wasn't going to check in until I was finished, but I felt compelled to do another update. Excuse my appearance. I have yet to get ready for the day. I just threw on a cozy sweater. I'm halfway through now, and my enjoyment has gone swiftly downhill. The flippant racism in this book. People can say all they want that is, like, just the language of the time, and that may be so, but it's affecting my enjoyment today. I find it disgusting today. And that combined with my issues I had at the beginning, like, I was still enjoying it, but I was like, it's really weird that it's like this non-linear timeline. I feel like it's confusing for the sake of being confusing, in the name of whimsy, maybe, as oftentimes these old fairy tales are. But it wasn't feeling whimsical to me. It was just feeling like confusing. Once they got to Neverland, there's a lot of racism in here. And I'm buddy reading with Sam. We were talking about it last night, and I took this off of my son's shelf, and I will not be putting it back on there. There is just too many issues. And there are some things that a word may have meant something different in 1911 than what it does today, such as the fairies returning to their homes after an orgy. But that means something different to me than maybe J.M. Barrie was talking about in 1911. I don't want my Wyatt will be 7 soon. I don't want him to read this, and he really wanted to read it after me. I'm just going to put this away when I'm done reading it, and we'll have a movie night and watch the movie together. There's many to choose from nowadays. I can't separate myself and, like, excuse the racism in the name of it's a classic. It's not a big deal. It's a classic. It's a big deal to me, and it's really bothering me, both to people of color as well as Native Americans. Well, Native people, that the natives on Neverland, they wouldn't be Native Americans, I guess, but that is, they are characterized as being similar to old stereotypes of Native Americans, if that makes sense. And I just don't like it. I'm going to finish it, but I don't like it. Also, Something that was really interesting is, as discussed earlier, there are differences from this classic book and the Disney movie. And we know that Disney, when they are taking a fairy tale and making it into this Disney children's movie, there obviously has to be a more happy take to it, if that makes sense. And Never, which I read earlier by Jessa Hastings, actually kept more true to the actual Peter Pan classic than Disney did. And I find that really interesting. I preferred Jessa's reimagining of Peter Pan than I am enjoying the original. So things that people may have critiqued Jessa in ways that Jessa portrayed Peter Pan or things happening on Neverland are actually more similar to how they are in this book than they were in the Disney movie, which many people are more familiar with the Disney movie, of course, because not everyone likes to read classics. I'm struggling. So I wanted to check in at the halfway mark and let you know that the classic, the OG of the Peter Pan theme of this reading vlog is not hitting the way I would hope for it to, and is my least favorite so far. I do have one book to read after this one for this reading vlog, and I hope that goes well, but that is a turn of events that I wasn't really expecting. Maybe I would have expected that I would like the classic least of all the books I read, but not have an active dislike of the book. You know what I mean? Like classics, my enjoyment is generally a bit lower than something like a fantasy romance that is, you know, written more recently. But I'm rambling. I just wanted to talk to like bookish friends and hope that you guys understand what I'm getting at, because I'm just not liking it. Thank God it's short. Hey guys, I finished this book. I did decide not to rate this on Goodreads. I feel like all of the thoughts I've already shared with you have stayed true. I did not enjoy this book. I found it confusing and disgustingly racist, and Disney, as we know, definitely romanticized this story, and I do still think that Jessa Hastings did a better job and stuck more true to this classic book than the Disney movie, but I've told you all that already. This will not be going back on Wyatt's bookshelf. I will probably keep it at the top where he can't reach of my bookshelf for now, but I don't even know if this is something that I want to keep in my house, which is really disappointing. Let's move on to the last Peter Pan retelling I'm going to read for this reading vlog, and hopefully we end on a higher note. I've officially started the last book for this reading vlog, which is Darling Girl by Liz Michalski. And as I thought, this definitely does have a bit more of a mystery plot to this, though it's still fantasy. We're still discussing Peter Pan and Neverland. I am currently 48 pages in, so I wanted to give a bit of a synopsis because I am very intrigued. We are following Holly Darling, who is the granddaughter to Wendy, and she is a scientist with a very hyped science-backed skincare brand called Darling Girl Skin, something like that. And it is said that that is why the Darling women don't seem to age like everyone else. So there's some definitely some marketing tactics going on, along with some magic. The Darlings apply their skincare on cuts and soreness. One moment. Okay, hold on cuts and soreness, and it seems to be a miracle cream beyond just anti-aging. Now, there was a car accident in which Holly loses one of her sons. She had twin boys and her husband in the crash, and shortly after finds out that she was pregnant with a baby girl. Further down the line, there is another accident, and her daughter Eden is basically in a coma for many, many years now. But the mystery is, one day her nurses call Holly, Eden's nurses call Holly and say, Eden is missing and her window was open. So there's obviously the lore behind this with Peter Pan coming to the window and taking the girls and all of that. But beyond Holly being distraught that her daughter is missing, and she's urging people not to call the police, she's got it handled. But in her lab, she is using Eden's blood for something. And her son that survived the crash gets injections of the blood on a monthly basis. That is super intriguing to me. I don't know what that's about yet. I feel like I'm not spoiling anything because I'm just like 40 pages in, but this has me hooked. Clearly this has some magical elements, but it's feeling more magical realism where I'm at now, just with the blood and the skincare cream and the anti-aging and all of that. It feels kind of like science-y magic, but I mean, what is the Peter Pan character like in this? We've had a lot of interpretations already in this vlog, and I'm just really excited to see where this goes. On Goodreads is listed as like everything: fantasy, magical realism, mystery novels, retellings, all of that. And so far I'm getting the vibes of all of those subgenres. I'm really excited to keep reading this. I am nearing the halfway point now in Darling Girl, and want to give a bit of an update again before I get too much further because I don't want to spoil anything. But I'm really liking how Peter Pan is described in this. He does come across as not wanting to grow up, a bit carefree, and having this like magnetism to him where people are drawn to him. You can't help but look at him because he's so beautiful. But then when he turns his head and smiles, you feel caught by a predator. Like your hackles kind of rise and you feel scared. So that is very interesting. And something else, it's not quite, what is that called? Like breaking the fourth wall, but we have a missing child, and then the investigator is missing his right arm and occasionally wears a hook. So he feels like Captain Hook. The housekeeper goes by Nan, though her real name is Nancy, and Holly's like right-hand man and business partner is named Barry, and the characters kind of call out the strangeness of all of these very similar people circling around their family that are very similar to Peter Pan the story, because the actual children's classic written by J.M. Barrie is prevalent in this book. Like, that is a book that exists in this world, and it is based off of Wendy Darling's recountance of her time in Neverland. It's just very interesting for them to call out the similarities, or like the coincidences, or is it sort of thing. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, it's interesting, but I don't know if it's kind of taking away the inference. Is that the right word? Like, you're supposed to pick up on these clues as a reader, but the characters in the book are just like telling you that the clues are there. Does that make sense? But overall, I'm still very intrigued in the mystery. I have no idea where it's going, and I can't wait to be finished this book. I'm having a great time. I have now finished Darling Girl, and I ended up giving this 3 stars, which you guys know I was really vibing with this. It was feeling like a 4-star read for quite a long time, but I feel like this had some major pacing issues. The middle section just really drug on with no development in the plot or what was going on. The reveals at the end, because this is a mystery, were interesting, but not super, I don't know, like that didn't blow me away. And then one other thing, I noticed the author's from Massachusetts. I'm Canadian, don't hate me. The amount of times we talk about tea when we are in London really bothered me. Whether it's a stereotype or true that the Brits love tea, it was overdone. I would feel the same if it was set in America and they were talking about coffee, but it was tea, pot of tea, need a tea, tea and crumpets, tea and toast. I'm gonna grab a tea, like constantly. And I was just like, okay, we get it. She likes tea. And the more that went on, the more I noticed it, and it was annoying me, which is something really silly. But really, it was a pacing issue. I don't think I would reread this, but I did really enjoy this book. So if you are interested in a more magical realism mystery take, this is quite different from the other Peter Pan books I read in this vlog, then give it a try. It was an enjoyable read. I liked it. 3 stars. But that was the last book I needed to read for this reading vlog. My mom is borrowing one, and then the other one I do not have a physical copy, but I've read 5 books for this vlog, which I'm really happy about and would love to do this again. So if you have another type of retelling I should read many books for, please let me know. We had a really mixed bag. I chose not to rate the original because I hated it so much. The racism was awful. And then we had 2 kind of mid books, which is kind of ironic that these are the ones that I have to show you. Both of these were 3 stars. They were enjoyable reads. I liked them but didn't love them. And then The Never King and Never, I really, really enjoyed. Both of those were like a high 4-star read for me. And it's been really interesting to compare these 5 books to the Disney movie, because all of these, including the classic, Peter is seen as the villain. And I don't feel like that is how he was in the Disney movie, which now I am going to rewatch with more of an adult lens. But in The Never King and Never by Jessa Hastings, the ones I gave a higher rating, is he the villain? He has a lot of the same traits throughout, which is expected as these are all retellings of the same story. But in these 2 books, he is especially seen as the villain character, among others. I don't want to give any spoilers, of course. And even in the other ones, he's just not the miracle boy full of wonder that I got that feeling as a child watching Peter Pan. Does that make any sense? This has been really interesting to like read and compare all books that have a very different take on the same story. Now, 3 of the 5 I read were romance heavy: The Never King, Never by Jessa Hastings, and Hooked, involving like a Peter Pan character and a Wendy Darling type character, whether they be descendants of that, whether Peter has grown older, what have you. I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, but I've also read one by Christina Henry that's a Peter Pan retelling, and that is more of a horror. And once again, Peter Pan is not the good guy. So I just really like this, and I liked that I was able to read multiple genres. We had the classic, we had some fantasy romance, we had the mystery, and then that Christina Henry one that I had read previously is a horror. So the Peter Pan retellings spans multiple genres as well. I'm going to stop rambling. Overall, I feel like this reading vlog was a success, and I definitely want to do it again with a different fairy tale. So leave me your feedback below. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading vlog. If you did, give it a thumbs up so that I know, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!